Welcome to 12 Gauge Investigative.
In the shadows where the truth hides deep, echoes of the lost and the secrets they keep. Cold cases burn in the back of your mind. We dig through the dark, one clue at a time. This ain't fiction, this is blood, this is truth. 12 Gauge investigative, justice uncaged. We ask the questions they're too scared to say, shining a light where the guilty pray. From killers to whispers, we won't look away.
All right. Happy Saturday to you all. Welcome to my channel. My name is 12 Gauge, and this is my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. If this is your first time here, I hope that you enjoy what you hear here, what you see here, and all the things that we dive into on the channel. Feel free to come into the chat and let everybody know who you are and just hang out with us. Let us be your channel of choice. Saturday, or if you speak Spanish, it's Sabado. You know what I mean? So, I decided to come on here and do some Idaho stuff today because I really haven't done a lot of it. So I thought I'd get on here and possibly just do a little bit because it's always interesting to me when certain things come out. You know, I haven't watched the 2020 thing. I'm sure I'll do that tonight with the Discord people. We always enjoy getting in Discord and having a good time together. Those of you that have yet to subscribe to the channel, what are you waiting on? It's free. Doesn't cost you a thing. There's no membership fees, none of that. I'm not monetized, so there's no reason you shouldn't be subscribed to the channel yet. Like I said, my name is 12 Gauge, and this is my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. Welcome, Victoria. Glad to see you. Today, a lot of people have been going over this, so I thought I'd throw my hat in the ring as well. I want to give Brian Hinton a shout out, because obviously he's the one that is doing this. And I don't want to take credit from anybody who does their own stuff, because there's times when I do my own stuff as well. So I want to give Brian Hinton a shout out. Thank you all so much for being here. Let me go ahead and move some of this stuff around. That way I can make this a little bigger. And that looks a lot better. All right. Well, kind of. Let me bring myself down a little bit. All righty. So if anybody isn't in the know about this Idaho case, I don't know where you've been, because maybe you just haven't been on YouTube listening to it day in, day out, like most of us have. Most of us have been following this case since it first dropped, November 13th, 2022. And along the way, we have also been listening to a lot of conspiracy, a lot of speculation, as well as on this channel. We've had multitudes of people that have obviously had very interesting theories as well as myself. And it's interesting to me that at this point in everything, now that Brian has gone to prison and is currently in the Idaho correctional penal system, it's interesting to me that we're still learning different things and we're being exposed to the stuff that the gag order allowed us to be prevalent to. The things I'm going to show today, some of it has been redacted. I'm going to show some body cam stuff. Um, going to show this, obviously. We're going to talk about the victims a little bit. We're going to talk about the perpetrator a little bit. But I hope that you enjoy the presentation. So let's buckle up and let's ride. Let's go, Brian. Show us what's up.
Finished a conversation with Stacy Chapin, who is, of course, the mother of Ethan Chapin, who's one of the Idaho victims from the Idaho murders, along with one of the executives from Othram. And Othram is this new cutting edge forensics company. They actually are the ones who tested the knife sheath initially and figured out that there was DNA on it, which really cracked open the case and led everything back to Brian Koberger. I met up with Stacy here where I am now at CrimeCon, which is this big crime convention in Denver. But I wanted to share this conversation with you because I've always had so much respect for Stacy, but it's also fascinating the world of forensics and how what they're learning could actually help other unsolved cases too.
And if you don't know about the IGG stuff, there was a huge dramatic issues with that, whether certain things were embellished, because Awesome started doing the profile. I believe that they did identify an STR profile as a male. And then it got stopped and then it got sent to the FBI, if I recall correctly. So they were able to identify the STR, which was obviously leading them to a male. It was not a mixed sample. It was one person sample. I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but it was just one person. It wasn't mixed with other people's DNA. So therefore, multitudes of individuals have always asked, well, why didn't it have blood? Why didn't it have more DNA mixed with it if the victims were there with him? This and that and the other. Well, that's an interesting question because maybe the individual wiped it down before he went in and possibly, the knife sheets ended up under one of the victims. So possibly we don't know if that sheet had any other DNA on it. It's never been released other than what I've heard to various entities. They said there's been 3 other DNA profiles that were on that sheet that were unable to distinguish which was which. There was blood on there, blah, 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 all this other stuff. I don't want to get into the semantics of this because we've gone over this multitudes of times. I'm just showing this because I want to show you exactly what one of the victim family members and the Othram person has to say.
So, Stacy, I'll start with you. I just wanted to say, to sort of get off my chest, like how much you've inspired so many people who have been following this case, me included. Just the way the way your family has handled all of this with such class and dignity. And I think you have inspired a lot of people who are going through things and that they can kind of get out on the other side. And now partnering or working with Othram, it seems like you're kind of entering sort of, in a way, like the next chapter.
I don't disagree with that, actually. It feels like a very natural transition, I guess. I didn't know where it was all going to end or begin or how it was ever going to play out. But it made perfect sense when when the gag order was lifted and we could have a conversation. It made perfect sense. because we're a face, we're a victim. We have been, Othram is involved in our case, and so it's just, yeah, it makes sense, right? And thank you. I mean, we've tried to take the high road through our case through the entire. It's been it'll be 3 years in November, obviously, but
Many people believe that the Chapins were working behind the scenes. They were having some private, I guess, interaction with Othram. Who's to say they did or who's to say they didn't? But the fact of the matter is, the families weren't under any kind of stipulation not to be discussing anything with Othram if they wanted to. I mean, they made a big deal about the evidence, okay? The families aren't pertinent to the evidence, blah, blah, blah. How did they find this out? How did they find that out? Well, the police, as you know, were under a gag order, so they had their own private investigators, I'm sure, asking questions, going around, finding answers for the families. Because there was a lot of stuff being presented that we were not prevalent to. Nobody knew if it was true, if it was false, but there was all these things that were being spoken of. So to sit here and say that if they did develop a friendship with this person, if Stacy indeed did develop a friendship with this person, what's wrong with it? This person wasn't under the gag order. Stacy wasn't under the gag order. They weren't releasing information to the world. If they were releasing anything very prematurely, it would have been the STR profile, because you do understand that they didn't have this profile very long. And that, you know, and then it was gone. It was gone. The FBI took it and then did the IGG stuff with it. So it's not like this individual right here broke any laws discussing anything with the Chapins. I'm sure she waited until after Brian pled, and then she was able to really disclose a lot more than she probably knew.
You just said that Stacy and the way that she handled this inspired you. Um, I had a question. I have this question all the time from people. How do you do the job that you do, see such evil, and not be affected by it? And I have to say that I do. I see some really terrible things and some really terrible parts of humanity, but then I also see pure light. And I feel like Stacy is one of those people that went through the worst of what society can give you, the unimaginable. I can't imagine going through what Stacy went through, and instead of letting that define her, she's actually turned the worst experience of her life into light. And she wants to give back to the world in a positive way and advocate for justice and fairness for everyone, advocate that technology is used in real time. That means a lot to me. Although we won't go into the details of exactly how we met until tomorrow at our talks, so that people still wake up in the morning and come to our talk.
and want to come.
We bumped into each other by chance.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this case was difficult because all of us were under a gag order, and we couldn't have our first real conversation until that gag order was lifted.
Yeah.
Okay, so they were under a gag order. Othram was under a gag order. I come to be corrected. So after the gag order was lifted, that's whenever they obviously started talking. So I mean, I stand to be corrected. I was wrong. So she's telling exactly how it happened. Whether you believe it or not, that's up to you. But, I'm only speaking on what I remember in memory, but obviously I was wrong in that point. So please forgive me for my mistake.
And that was really difficult. Everything I do here at Othram, everything everyone here at Othram does, is for the victims and their families. We're victim advocates first. And it's very difficult to meet your why and to not be able to tell them how you feel, what's going on in the case. But that's the deck of cards we were dealt in,
Right.
in this scenario. And We are here tomorrow and then I think indefinitely to try to advocate that others aren't dealt the same deck of cards
Yeah.
because it's a difficult one, right? To know that you have information that could help someone heal, that could help someone feel safe or secure, and to not be able to give it to them is difficult. Um,
I mean, that would be tough. You're listening to what she's saying. She's saying it's tough having information that you could help this individual say, you could say, well, we know that this is this type of individual. We know that it's a male. We know that this is blah blah blah, whatever the DNA process is, and you're unable to tell them because you're under the gag order, which I was mistaken. I didn't believe that they would have been, but obviously they were. She just said it. So that would have been difficult to be trying to have all this information and not be able to share it with one of the victim's family for the sake of a gag order.
to know that there's a family member out there wondering what is going on and everything that's in the media is incorrect, for a lack of a better word, or just speculation, because everyone that worked this case, all the family members that were involved, none of us could speak to the media.
Yeah.
You know that more than anyone.
Right.
And so everyone's speaking, everyone out there giving interviews was speculating with no knowledge, with very little information what was going on. And they painted the wrong picture.
Did you hear what she said? She said everyone that was speaking, everyone is a very descriptive, very definitive word, meaning all the people that had something to say about this case regarding the STR profile were speaking. And she's about to talk about how they were wrong. They were spreading wrong information, which I believe that I've spread wrong information. I own that. I'm not a DNA specialist. I've never claimed to be. But the first time that I remember really understanding the STR profile is I was reading a document to my subs in the chat, and it was finally making sense to me. So what she's about to say means a lot because, like she's saying, after the fact, the gag order's lifted. They can finally talk about it. It's good to move on and be able to clarify things that were misunderstood or misspoken on.
And finally, we have our voices back.
Yeah, right.
And excited to tell the story.
Was it? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Stacey.
No, I just was going to say you have to understand it's the most advanced technology, forensic DNA technology in the world. I'm not the scientist, but I've been on the receiving end of having them not only work on our case, but there was a comfort there. I mean, and that's part of the story we'll tell tomorrow, is that we met by chance, and I had some knowledge throughout our case of what the Middlemans were doing, and I relied on that. Jim and I relied on that in our darkest moments. I didn't know anything, that I wasn't supposed to know, but it was a blessing, and victims' families should have the right to that information if they're going through the same thing we are. I mean, inevitably, there's going to be families that are in the same position we are.
Yeah, I guess there would have been a lot more certainty had it been explained.
It's definitive information. There was so much, so much speculation. There still is. It's shocking to me.
I mean, this is science.
It's scientific.
Yeah,
right?
No speculation.
I mean, if you knew definitively that knife sheath was, without a shadow of doubt, which is the case, now that it's all said and done, it would have been different going through. You would have relied on, you kind of went, okay, maybe we don't need to worry as much as we need to worry.
Yeah, and there was one advanced forensic test performed. There was one profile. There was so much speculation out there about multiple profiles, incongruent information. There is only one.
She just said it right there. There was only one profile. One. Not multiple, not more alternative. One. And she's about to tell you some more about this.
One lab that is doing this type of DNA technology that tested that DNA and it's ours. And I couldn't come forward and say, no, this is definitive.
Right.
There is one profile with these matches that led to this conclusion that pointed directly to Brian Kohlberger's family, right? That none of that could.
Did you hear what she just said? Let me rewind that for the people in the back. Because they're not going to understand it. There's still people that are claiming that there's multiple perpetrators. There's people still understanding this whole theory that there's multitudes of people, but where they found the DNA was under button snap, one profile, one STR profile, which was a male, which later led them on the way to eventually finding the correlation between Brian's dad and Brian. So, I mean, for the individuals who really do not want it to be that, I understand why they would be talking as they're talking. I understand that wholeheartedly. But why would this lady be lying on camera? You know, what reason does she have to lie? And that's the question that I have for a lot of people is whenever they don't want to believe people that are actually working in this field, law enforcement, scientists, experts, all these things, what is the payoff for these individuals to get on camera and lie to the public? What is the payoff? The man's already in prison. The appeals come and gone. The date for the appeals come and gone. What is the payoff? And that's what you got to ask yourself is if they're getting on camera to lie, if they're getting on camera to speak untruth, what is the end game? The dude's already in prison. He's not getting out. What's the end game? The fact that they didn't do it correctly, so therefore an innocent man is in prison, is that the end game for a lot of people? What that's their end game. That's their end game. You're never going to change their mind. They're always going to have the speculation as to what they're speaking of that this man is innocent, no matter what you show them. So, I mean, at this point, it doesn't matter what they believe. It doesn't matter what I believe. This lady is speaking her own truth. Let's hear what she says again.
Incongruent information. There is only one lab that is doing this type of DNA technology that tested that DNA and it's ours. And I couldn't come forward and say, no, this is definitive.
Right.
There is one profile with these matches that led to this conclusion that pointed directly to Brian Kohlberger's family, right?
So, what she just said was on point right there. Think about this, okay? Unless you're a DNA specialist, a person that works in the science attribute to test DNA and understand the process, you can read it all you want. I've read it. Like I just said before, I read about the STR and the documents and the court documents and all this other stuff. Doesn't make me an expert. Just because I understand, okay, well, they got this DNA sample off the button snap, it was enough to create an STR profile. Whether it was sweat, whether it was skin cells, whether it was anything of that nature that came off his thumb, it was enough to create that STR profile and it went on its way. And you don't think they tested this off the sheath? You think that they just swabbed it at the crime scene and then took the swab and never tested the sheath again? If you believe that, you believe that. But I'm telling you, I believe that that sheath was gone over with a fine tooth comb. Because if you find that, you don't think you're going to want to find some more? And a lot of it was inconclusive on the other part that they did find on the sheath. But they did tell you about the blood. They told you one was Maddie's, one was Kaylee's, and one was an unknown. So why would it be unknown? Because unless you have Brian Koberger's blood sample, you would not be able to trace his blood to the third drop of blood. Therefore, it's unknown because you don't know. I saw a video that said it's difficult to test blood and to be able to trace it back to an individual. It's almost impossible because you have to bring out the DNA in it and everything else. So the fact that it was unknown, it is my interpretation that unless they had other blood that matched Brian's, it would have been unknown for a reason. Not because they didn't know that it wasn't Brian's, but they didn't have any other blood to compare it to. So I'm just gonna stop right there. I'm gonna keep playing this because like I said, I'm not an expert. This is just my intellectual interpretation, and I could be way off, you know?
None of that could be said before, and that was very frustrating. And to not be able to tell the family or to talk about it, the law enforcement agents that worked this case couldn't talk about it. No one that had any information could correct the record.
Right.
And so what ended up happening is everyone tried to figure out why was this information not out there, what was missing, what was the missing component, and came up with a whole bunch of speculations that led to uncertainty. And that uncertainty continued to grow. And I think that was the most difficult on the victim's family.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
And no one else, right? Like I was certain the entire time because I saw the science, I knew the results, right? I never had one doubt in my mind that we'd be sitting here today, whenever today was, whether it's after the trial, before the trial, at a plea. I knew that this day was going to come. But the victims' families didn't have that
Right.
certainty. I don't even know if law enforcement involved in the case had that
Right.
certainty. I don't know how far the results actually propagated as the
I mean, can you imagine how hard that would be to know without a reasonable doubt? Without a reasonable doubt, the certainty of knowing what you know. Where is the sheets? It's probably in evidence. I don't know, Nicole. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I don't know where the sheath is. I mean, I don't know if there's any pictures of the sheath or not that we haven't seen any. You're right. We haven't seen any pictures, no documents on the testing. You're right. We haven't been prevalent to any of that information. I'd love to see pictures of the sheath. I'd love to see, the sheath in an evidence bag or whatever. I'd love to see that. And you're right. They should show us the sheath. You're right.
full result of the investigation because everything was kept so under wraps. And I think that needs to change. Um, Stacey's right. This technology is superior to traditional DNA testing. Traditional DNA testing looks at 20 markers and is there to confirm identity. It was purpose built in the 90s to help confirm someone's identity or connect someone to multiple crimes if they're a serial perpetrator. Our technology takes place much earlier in an investigation. We can infer someone's identity because we're looking at hundreds of thousands of markers, almost 1 million markers every time we build one of these DNA profiles. So we can infer identity by looking at sixth cousins, fifth cousins, fourth cousins, and figuring out who left that DNA at the crime scene.
See, just based on what she just said right there, unless you really know what goes into the science of this testing, that just all sounded like this cousin, this cousin, this cousin. I mean, you'd have to slow it down. And I mean, I'm a visual learner. So to hear her say this is one thing. Show me how this works. And we can really agree on, okay, let's go and show me how this is done. And we'll really get to the end point. I would love to see the sheath. I mean, that would be awesome. That would be awesome to either see it in the evidence bag, see it in the bed. I mean, I don't have to see the victim, but I can see the sheath under Maddie as the first officer came in to go into the room. That would be a lot of this case that a lot of people really want to see, and I'm with that. I'm sure.
By inferring that identity, we're giving that information to law enforcement. And I want to make clear, because there are questions in our talk today for David, and I'm sure in our talk tomorrow, that we don't tell them this is your perpetrator. We say this person's profile, or one of these 2 or 3 people in this family left DNA at this crime scene, meaning that they then need to investigate. They need to contextualize that information. They knew in the Kohlberger case that there was a white Elantra that was seen at the crime scene. Now they knew that there was a family in Pennsylvania that was identified. Could they look up a white Elantra that had a Pennsylvania plate or a Pennsylvania driver? Of course they could. And that's part of their investigation. I don't know the order of which the investigators actually investigated that case, but they were able to piece all those pieces together because we gave them the information that we gave.
Well, Nicole, how do you know that I haven't read through the documents? I mean, to be fair, you're right. I haven't read all 399 documents and all these other documents and all these other documents because, to be honest, I have a 8 to 5 and I have tons of other stuff. And, I'm not siding one way or the other. I'm merely listening to what she's saying and I'm trying to figure out, did they really have this information at the very beginning? A lot of people always say that to me. You need to read the documents. Well, I've read the documents. I've been covering this case from the very beginning. So to suggest that I haven't read any of this stuff, but I haven't been reading it through the eyes of this is a cover up. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's like I wasn't reading it through this is a cover up or this is not a cover up. I was reading it through an objective mindset where I wanted it to show me one way or the other. And, to be fair, you know, to be fair, I don't think anybody really understands exactly all the documents because there's a lot of redaction. So if you're reading something, if you don't have the whole concept, how can you say that you totally understand it or they're trying to show you something that is covering something up? I mean, that's hard for me to understand that concept.
And as they pieced all those puzzle pieces together, it became very clear that there was only one suspect that was possible of committing this crime.
Stacy, do you want other families like who are going through, I mean, do you think things need to change
Absolutely.
nationwide?
And I don't know what the answer to that is. I mean, we're just getting started on this. But you know, even if you don't know anything, but you know that Othram was involved in identifying a perpetrator, that's
Nicole, do you have a channel that we can put your link down so that, if you do read the documents on your channel, people can go and listen to your interpretation? Because to be honest, I mean, I'm going to be flat out honest with you. There's a lot of people that read these documents that have no idea what these documents mean. In my job, I read these kind of documents every day. Every day. And I can tell you that there's a lot of individuals that read these documents. I'm talking about probable cause affidavit. I'm talking about all of it, the evidence packet, all of it. And there's people that get on here and read them that I've heard. They have no clue what they're talking about. You get what I'm saying? No clue. They're making it up as they're going along. So they're misleading people in what these words are really saying, what this document is really saying. And what I'm telling you about this STR profile is when I read that document, it's saying exactly what this lady's saying today, that they were able to pull the DNA from the snap to get one STR profile, which was the one that the FBI ended up having. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, just be mindful that sometimes people may be able to read the English language. They might be able to tell you what this is being said. But I always encourage people to get the understanding for themselves or find somebody who really understands these documents. Because there's a lot of people that have no clue what these documents are really saying. They're interjecting their biasness, and by that, it changes the whole document meaning. It really does.
it's a comforting piece of information. The rest of it takes all of law enforcement as well, right? I mean, it still takes this entire case. Yeah. So, but there is a piece that is he's definitively in that home.
I think that I'm trying to remember how, but I think it leaked out at one point. I forget. Often it came out at some
It
point.
did.
I don't remember how exactly.
Out, I think it was a New York Times article.
That's right.
I may be right or wrong about that being the first source, but they had pulled a contract between Idaho State Police and Othram for this type of advanced DNA testing. And so they said, well, they're in contract. So it's very possible that Othram is the lab, but Othram will give no comment, as we couldn't give a comment at the time.
Yeah.
And to be fair, also, like what she's saying about the speculation, that they weren't able to discuss any of it with anybody. So even, I think that even mainstream media, people, New York Times, um, all that stuff, they could have been misleading us as well, you know. So it just frustrating a lot that people people get so one sided, which I'm trying to find the truth as well. You know what I mean? One way or the other.
You know, and in this case specifically, which is very interesting, and I don't think we'll talk about this tomorrow, is that
And not the truth for myself, not the truth for my subs. I just want to know, not that they got the right guy, because I agree that both sides, the prosecution and the defense, probably didn't have 100% case. They didn't do it 100%. I believe there were a mistake, just like in every case that's being tried across the U.S. There's cases that you sit and wonder, how the hell did that person get off? How the hell did that person get convicted? You might not ever know. And that's the plain and simple fact. So unless you can accept that, maybe true crime isn't the genre for you, because there is a lot of unfair things that happen. And that's one of the reasons why Lady Justice is blind, because sometimes things don't go the way that the public think they should go.
had it happened,
But it doesn't ultimately mean that this lady right here who lost her son and this lady right here were in cahoot to deceive the public by doing this interview.
7 miles west in Washington state, they might not have had knowledge of Othram. So the only reason that this thing went to Othram is because the Idaho State Patrol forensic scientists knew about them. And when it didn't hit in CODIS, then they brought it there like, we got to take a chance on this company. And had it gone to Washington
And to be fair, the only reason that nothing hit in CODIS for Brian is because he didn't have a record. He didn't have a criminal record. And that's why multitudes of people said, well, they didn't even run it through CODIS. They did run it through CODIS. He didn't hit. And guess what else? The DNA that they ran through CODIS, had it been somebody else that was in the criminal justice database, such as Farley, Kara, whoever, had it been their DNA, guess who would have hit? Those people. And since none of them hit, or any other criminal that people have thrown in the mix of this case, had it been their DNA, guess what? CODIS would have hit, because every person who is arrested or goes to prison gets swabbed for their DNA. So the fact that none of these people that have been implicated in this case hit on that DNA search through CODIS, that should tell you that the narrowing down, this person's DNA was not in CODIS, so therefore it wasn't an offender. It wasn't somebody who went through to prison, got out, and offended and killed these people. You get what I'm saying? Did you hear what I just said there? And I have not been researching any of this stuff. I'm just speaking it on what I know. And I know that if any of these people would have been in CODIS, Farley, Jesse James Bailey, all these people that people claim are linked to this crime, if that was their DNA, guess what? It would have shown up like a Christmas tree lighting up. They would have had their killer. But guess what? This DNA on this sheath didn't come up in CODIS. So think about that a minute. Had it been somebody who was in the criminal justice system and got released to commit this crime, it would have shown up. The fact that it didn't, guess what? I've heard all that, Nicole. I have heard all that. Okay. Just because I don't read the document don't mean that I don't know what other parts that people talk about. You get what I'm saying? You're assuming that in order to get all the answers, they're in the documents, and they're really not. They're really not. If they were, people would not be talking about this anymore. If all the answers are in the documents and they're cut and dry, people would quit talking about this case. It really would. Yeah, and Hitler denied the alternate perpetrators because some of the alternate perpetrators that they were trying to link to this crime. One was the guy that obviously, quote unquote, was stalking Kaylee at Winco. The other guys were some of the frat boys. You don't think their DNAs were ran through any of this stuff? You don't think they were searching their DNAs to link and see if their DNA was on the sheath? Because people want people to believe, this is the big word, believe, that the only person that they looked for was Brian. They didn't look for anybody else. And if you've been to my channel at all, Nicole, you have heard me say, in law enforcement, they look to eliminate suspects rather than create a suspect. So in that attribute, you have to understand all these people that were being thrown in court as the alternate perpetrators, they didn't have any evidence showing that. So how would I know that? Because I heard the hearing. I listened to the hearing. You're throwing read the document, but did you watch any of the hearings? Let me see what you're saying. If there is no DNA evidence of the sheets, what you're saying that directly put Koberg at the scene, then it would be interjecting your bias without any evidence except the word of other people. Touche, but you're saying the same thing. You're saying read the documents and trust you. I don't know if you're wanting an argument. I'm not going to give you an argument. This isn't that type of channel. It really isn't. I mean, I respect what you're saying, but I'm not on here trying to convince anybody that I'm right, you're wrong, I'm right. So if you're wanting an argument, that's fine. Some people cannot ever get the proof that they're looking for. And that statement right there, I don't take anyone at their word. So how could you ever get proof if you don't believe anybody's word? That's an oxymoron right there. You get what I'm saying? To need proof and not take anyone at their word, that counteracts itself. Meaning that somebody could be proving to you, like by this that I'm showing right now, but since you don't take anybody at their word, you only take your own word. That means that it's never going to be right in your eyes. You know what I mean? The defense essentially conceded at the alternate perpetrator hearing that there was not enough evidence to meet the applicable standard to put an alternate perpetrator evidence. So I'm not calling you a moron. I'm saying that's an oxymoron statement. You said you always need proof, but you don't take anyone at their word. How could you get proof if it's not coming from yourself? Meaning that people can show you proof, but you're not going to believe it because it didn't come from you. That's what that statement means that you said. We'll go on.
You know, their forensic people didn't know, then potentially it would have gone I don't, you know, I don't know that it would have gone unsolved because that's
would
not
have
my
taken a
job.
lot
It would
longer.
have just taken more time, right?
So are there so many cases out there that could be solved
Yes.
if what the police just don't know to call you, or what's
Yes,
the?
and
Yeah.
you know what? That's what keeps me up at night, because this technology will get adopted. It's clear that it's predictable, it's robust, it's scalable, it's being adopted. You can see that in 2019 we solved 5 cases. We solved 5 cases today. While we
If I'm going to challenge your word, Nicole, and I'm only challenging that statement, if I'm going to challenge that, you're saying that this lady right here that's telling you how things are done, how she got to the perpetrator, how she was able to decipher this STR profile. And you're even saying, I don't read the documents, but you're claiming that you read the documents, obviously, and you still don't believe what the documents say. So, how are you ever going to get to the point of understanding if you don't trust in anybody's word but your own? That's basically what your sentence said. So what this lady's saying is lying, what I'm saying is lying, what everybody else says is lying, other than your interpretation of what the document said. Which, how do you believe that or not believe that based on what you said? I don't believe in anyone. Let me scroll up because I don't want to misquote you. I just always need proof. I don't take anyone at their word. That just doesn't make sense to me at all. It really doesn't. Because at one particular point, if you don't take people at their word, needing them to show you something makes it proof. So the fact that you didn't see the sheath with DNA STR profile on it, you don't believe that the sheath was there. Is that what you're saying? Where'd you go? Where'd you go? Come back.
we've been sitting here, right?
Yeah, 5
It's-
cases today.
It's scaling, right?
Yeah.
And those are announcements, which are about 10% of the cases we actually solve. And so, of course, this technology is being adopted. There's almost no state in the United States that isn't now using this technology or hasn't tried it at least once at Othram. So I do believe that in the next few years, everyone will be using this technology. The state labs will have access
Yeah.
to this in their own laboratory. They won't even need to send the evidence to Othram anymore. And I'm so excited about it. But if that takes 10 years versus 3, how many victims in between will be unnecessary victims of serial rapists, serial killers that weren't caught the first time they committed the crime? We were able to stop Brian Kohlberger in this case before he committed that next crime. And
you don't know who that person would be,
No.
right? I mean, and that's what, you know, we've sat and talked a lot about. You don't know who that person would have been that got saved.
What is it like for you to meet the person or the people who? I mean, it's so scientific what they did, but to put a face to it.
It's amazing. Jim and I hopped the first plane.
Yeah.
Yeah, we flew to Houston, and then Maisie and I have been back. I feel forever indebted to them. I have a list of people in my heart that, since November 13th that I feel that way about, and they're on the list. I mean, thank God that they developed something that helped our case, right?
And what about for you? I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I just want to say, plus they're incredible people. I mean, they've just created something. They genuinely care about the outcome.
I just don't understand the anger toward the families who want to honestly know, just like everybody else who has a hat in the ring. Just like Nicole said, she wants proof. Well, Stacy wanted proof. Now, this person from Othram is telling her obviously exactly how They got that proof. It's good enough for Stacy, but it's not good enough for anybody else out here in the YouTube world. The dude's still in prison. He's not getting out. No matter what people are throwing at you and all the hoopla and everything else that they're wanting you to believe, drink that Kool-Aid if you want. Brian's not getting out. He's not getting out. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but he's not getting out. All the rhetoric and all the anger and all the angst and all the doubts and all the speculation and everything on YouTube doesn't amount to a hill of beans regarding his innocence or guilt. He pleaded guilty. Do you understand that concept? He pleaded guilty. He stood up and said yes to 4 counts of premeditated murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Nobody else stood up there. Nobody else stood up there and said they did it. Nobody else's DNA was on the sheath. Brian's was on the sheath, according to these labs. So where would they have gotten Brian's DNA if it wasn't placed there by Brian? All that stuff that people say, well, what if Brian's had, I'm going to quote this one. What if Brian had the K-bar knife in the sheath and it was his, but then it was stolen? Othram just told you their lab found his STR profile on it. They started the process. The sheath was found. They started the process. The FBI kicked in the rest. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, where is that? Where is that K-bar knife? It was stolen, right? It was stolen by somebody, and Brian's STR profile was left on the button snap. So the real killer didn't leave their DNA on the sheath. They planted it because they stole it. So you don't think the type of person Brian Koberger is, you don't think that he would have reported his knife being stolen? The dude admitted to driving without a seatbelt and then tells the cop, I could have lied, but I didn't. So you don't believe that he would have been the first one to say, hey, somebody stole my knife sheath and the knife that went in it. You don't believe that? I don't know how to convince you. That's the operative word, is convincing, which I'm not trying to do to anybody, but that's what multitudes of people try to do, is convince you that their theory is correct and everybody else is, as they say, the guilters are wrong. The guilters are wrong. The Amazon, all that was just fabricated. It wasn't. That's not proof that he ordered that he signed for it, that he showed people at his house. None of that. Obviously, there were people at his home that saw him with a K-bar and a knife sheath and a sharpener, right? You don't think that arrived at his home without anybody else having knowledge of that? Just because we haven't been told, then it didn't happen, right? That's how this whole case and every other case happens, is like we only believe what we hear, but we don't believe what we hear. We believe what we're shown. Well, they have receipts that we've been shown of him ordering stuff. But like I said, nobody believes that. It's just fabricated lies. So why are you jumping around from DNA to blood to everything else? I mean, this lady told you how she got it, okay? You're jumping around. It's like I'm discussing certain things and you jump to another topic. But don't speck of blood in there at all. There was no blood in the crime scene whatsoever. We didn't see any blood in the crime scene. See, that's what people do when they want to defend that their theory is correct. Well, blood and DNA are totally different things. Okay? They really are. They really are. Like I told you at the very beginning, like I told the audience, I'm talking to everybody in the audience. I'm talking very general. But I saw a scientist says that they can't test the blood and find out whose blood that was. So the fact that you're discussing blood right now, who's to say that that unknown blood that was on that DNA or that was on that knife sheath could have contained some of the DNA that was on the button snap as well? And they later found out that that was Brian Koberger's blood as well. I don't know. I'm losing track here, and I'll let the chat answer your questions from here on out. There's plenty of smart people in the chat. They can answer your questions. You're just trying to derail my live. It seems like I'm trying to just play this and I'm answering your specific questions. I don't know why, but it's interesting to me. I want to show you that this guilter is not going to cuss you out and throw you out of the chat or block you. Not what I'm about. And if that's what you're looking for, just to show everybody else's theory that all guilters are a-holes and all this other stuff, it's not going to happen. Listen to what I'm showing or don't. But thank you for being here. I appreciate you.
And they care about the people involved. They're just good people, and that says a lot about the company as well and all the people there.
And for you, what you do is so scientific, but to put a face, I mean, to actually see the difference that you made.
Our technology is based in science and certainty, but our mission is based in advocacy. You know, we all came from a biomedical background, working at the forefront of biomedical research or consumer genomics, but these are
Biomedical background. Who in the chat has a biomedical background? Do you, Nicole? Do you, Kels? Do you, Walt? Do you, Texas? Do you, Rondi? Do you, PKC? I don't believe anybody does. And if you do, come up on panel and explain how this lady got to the knife sheath, the DNA on the knife sheath. So I'd love to know. I wish I knew a bio person. I'd have them on my panel quick.
fields that are well funded. And we moved into forensics where there isn't funding for this new technology to make a difference because there weren't enough people working on this problem. And so I think that that's selected for a team of people that were either affected by crime or someone that they really loved was affected by crime, that understand how broken the current system really is. And so it's selected for people that are relentless in the pursuit of justice here, in the pursuit of creating this infrastructure to help everyone. And so I think we're more mission driven.
Well, the truth of the matter is, Brian's in prison today. He's in prison for pleading guilty. That is the truth. Whether you believe how they were investigating it, how it would have went to trial, he could have got off. But obviously he felt that he didn't have a chance in hell, and he pleaded. He asked for a plea deal. Everything else is irrelevant at this point.
And we are science driven. For me, for sure, it's all heart. And getting to meet Stacy just solidifies that for me. I mean, how could you meet someone that you've altered their trajectory in life, right? She won't have to wonder if that person's still out there for the next few years. She won't have to worry about her other two children being the next victims of that serial killer. And she knows the answer. And I don't believe in closure when something this terrible happens to you. No. But I do believe that the truth allows you to turn the page to that next chapter of, well, what is next? And for Stacey, it's advocacy. For everyone, it could be something different, but it allows her to live her.
Well, there you go with that one statement. Everybody's opinions are welcomed. Obviously, you don't want to feel that what I'm saying is relevant as what you're saying. Thank you for being here. Welcome back anytime. Okay? You have a good weekend as well.
Her life moving forward and not being stuck in trying to understand the past. And for Stacey's case, it happened in a matter of months. For Jim Walker's case, who spoke in David's talk a few minutes ago, it happened in 47 years. That shouldn't be the case. And unfortunately, that still is the case.
I was just asking anyone in the chat if they could go from the point of gathering the DNA from the knife sheath and articulate it in words or in visual that would show me exactly how they got to the STR profile. Because, like I said, I'm not that type of person to understand that. I'm a visual person. And if anybody could ever do that, then I would understand it a whole lot better. But I'm not showing this to show how they got the DNA. She's speaking on that. I'm not. So I'm showing that to say that this person obviously knows a lot more than anybody. And she's saying that this was one profile. One. Meaning that it was Brian's. Because did it not go to the FBI and they did the IgG and all that stuff? And obviously they had enough evidence. They weren't even going to use the IgG.
All too often. And in Jim's case, the perpetrator continued to murder other women and other children. And here we stop that.
I'm open to that, Kels. If she wants to, just let me know in Discord when, and we could get her up here and she could describe it and discuss it. Because I'm open to that. I really am, because I have no understanding of DNA process. I understand how they got to the STR, but multitudes of people have this understanding that once they got to Othram and then once it went to wherever it went, or it went to the ISP lab, then it went to Othram, then it went to the FBI. En route from the Othram to the FBI, somebody manipulated it to the point where it became Brian Koberger. So if she's open to that, I am open to that myself, because I'd love for somebody to explain how that happened, you know? I'd love that in a way that everybody else can understand it, where it's no longer a mystery. It is just a factual event.
Stop that pattern. And someone's home having Thanksgiving with their family this year that would have been Kohlberger's next victim. And there's so much meaning to that goes so much beyond science.
Right.
We really are making the world a better place.
Well, thank you both for talking to me. Thank you for showing. I mean, we just saw Gabby Petito's parents when we were walking. The fact that you all can take a tragedy and turn it into something impactful, I think, like I said, is just inspiring in a number of levels. So, and I mentioned Gabby Petito's parents because they've done, I think, the same thing.
I agree. Yeah.
So
I mean, if we can make it better, right, for future families, victims' families, that's important, because it isn't easy to go through it.
Yeah, but that to me is hope. That's the definition of hope that for humanity. Yes, you do see these terrible people, but don't focus on that. Focus on these people that have just gone through the worst and are willing to turn it into something good for someone else.
And the picture's right there behind you.
Yeah, focus on that, and they're on it.
So sweet.
And that to me is, I think that's the importance of all of this.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I'm going to show this next one. Hopefully it is clear enough for people. It's Jeff H's. I don't know how it came up on that, but Jeff cleaned this up, and I haven't watched it, but once again, there's been a lot of accusations towards everyone and anyone in this case. And I'm with the lady from Othram. If they can clarify things in order for people to get a clear view of it, but at the same time, there's been a lot of clarification, just like that lady was just telling me that I must read the documents because there is obviously corruption or some kind of cover up. Okay, so what cover up is there? So we're going to throw Brian in prison to save who? According to other creators, to save other criminals, to save the frat boys, to save this person, to save that person. So of all the people to throw in prison, why would it be Brian? What would make it Brian would be the sacrificial lamb for all that is wrong in the world today? That is the question that I have. And nobody has been able to give me that answer. I've asked countless people that don't believe in what we show on this channel, but they're unable to show anything different without getting upset, name calling, calling stupidity, bootlicking, all this other stuff. I mean, whatever they want to say. But at the same time, if you don't have, it's interesting to me that those individuals that claim read the documents are the same people that are claiming that there's nothing against this individual who pleaded guilt on these murders. It would have been great to have a trial. But at the same time, people are forgetting that they asked for the plea. So the same people that are claiming that Brian got framed and everything else are the same people that are mad that there's no trial. When the person that they're trying to convince everybody else of corruption, frame job, all this other stuff, is the person that asked for the plea. So how could you really be mad at other people when he's the one that asked for the plea? Obviously, he didn't trust in the jury not finding him guilty. Obviously, there was more going to be presented in a way where it made him look more guilty than innocent without a reasonable doubt. You know what I mean? So he chose that. He chose that. But at the same time, people are like, read the documents, read this, read that. This has been shown. He's been framed. For the sake of what? For the sake of what? What did Brian ultimately know that you can prove? Because I don't see anything in the document that to show Brian knew something more than he knew something that would have got him framed. You don't believe that at this point we would have seen something that Brian encountered this, he found this. They went through his apartment. Was there anything in there that was incriminating to the University of Idaho? Was there anything in there incriminating to WSU? Was there anything incriminating to Moscow Police Department? Oh, I get it. They crumpled it up and shredded it, anything that they found. So you're telling me everyone, and everybody that investigated this crime was in on the coup d'etat. Coup d'etat. You're telling me that everybody that investigated this crime, these murders, was in, and Brian just happened to be the patsy. Make it add up without your conspiracy theories, and I'll listen to it. But I'm not going to listen to when people say what's in this or it's in that, but they can't give you a specific. It's in this video, but they can't give you a timestamp. It's in this document, but they can't give you what the document says that shows their validity in their statement. That's all I'm saying. This is an investigative channel, but nobody brings any kind of evidence backing up their statement. They're just want to say, do this or do that. Look at this person's video or look at that person's video. But at the same time, they tell you they don't believe in other people's words. They need to be shown the proof. But they're quoting other things that everybody has read and talked about without any kind of clarity coming from those whatsoever. Let's listen to Jeff's cleaned up version of this. I'm sure he did not put anything extra. He did not take away from it. I want to fast forward it because those of you who have seen this, in the very beginning, there's a lot of redactions. It doesn't get really to the meat and potatoes until about this point, I believe. So here we go.
So you were with Ethan and Anna last night, right?
Yeah.
And do you know Ethan's last name?
Cuban. I don't know how to spell it.
That's fine. And Anna's last name?
Kernel.
Do you know spell it?
I think it's Kerno. Maybe another OTLE or something like that.
Okay.
And let me stop that for a second because I've heard people say Dylan didn't know how to spell Gonsalves. She doesn't know how to spell Kernodle, and they lived in the same house. Give me a phone number out of your phone by memory that you know these people directly, that you know their phone number without looking in your phone. Quickly, give me somebody's phone number. And somebody that you do business with all the time, or maybe even see once a week or once a day, and you know there's their number. I know she made a mistake. She said XANY. You don't believe she was under a lot of stress? I mean, I caught that. It's going to come up in the closed caption. You're right. XANY. And then she says, "Excuse me, it's XANA." Have you never made a mistake? I think we all make mistakes, don't we? Have we ever misspelled a word? Oh, there's people in chat right now that are misspelling words and all this other stuff. I like that. And a 30-year-old man that writes like a first grader. But this interview really doesn't have anything to do with anything other than an interview. And for those of you that don't know the difference, there is a difference between an interview and an interrogation. This was not an interrogation because she was not under arrest. She was not a suspect in the murder. Had she been a suspect in the murder, she would have been read her Miranda rights. She would have been interrogated at that point. And these type of questions wouldn't have been asked at this point. It would have been directly about the murders. He doesn't ask any of that because she is not a suspect. You get what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. She's not a suspect. She's being interviewed. She's not being interrogated. There's a difference. But many people believe that just because you're in this interview room, you should be interrogated as a suspect. Because many people believe that Bethany and Dylan were indeed the culprits of this crime. So therefore, they believe they should have been interrogated harshly, which they weren't because they weren't suspects of the murder. But if you don't believe me, Go Google the difference between an interview and an interrogation. I'm not lying to you. Okay? Hello, AR.
Okay, so you're within the same. What time did you guys get the second guys also?
Around 8 something. Maybe 8:30.
So 8:30 p.m.
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. And prior to that, were you guys just at your house? Okay, so you left from your house.
Ethan was that formal because he went with his sister. She didn't have a date. And then
Okay.
we were just hanging out at our house. And then he came over and we all walked over together.
Okay, so that was.
And let me see when this interview took place. It took place on 11/13/2022 at 13:56. So that would have been at 3:56. Wait, 13 is 1 o'clock, right? I'm bad with military time. Can one of y'all help me out with that? What is 13:56 in military time? Is that 1:36? Because I thought 20 was 4 o'clock. Can y'all help me out with that? 13:56. Is that 1:56? Okay, so this would have been right after they were interviewed at the residence. So she obviously went down to the station with him after finding out all this time. How many of you are able to turn grief on and turn it off? You find out that your housemates have been brutally murdered. You find it out. You're crying, you're thinking back on all this not being real because anytime you have some trauma, it's surreal. For many of us that are able to sit back right now and watch her during this interview, this isn't November 13th, 2022. We're watching it at 9/6/2025. So for us to be able to sit here and say, well, she should have done this, or why is she acting like this, or why is she crying, why is she using a little girl's voice, why is she doing this, why? She just found out not long ago that her housemates had been murdered viciously. She asked for her mother right off the bat. That should tell you the mindset that she's in. She wants some comfort. Look how she's balled up. Hey, Paula. Look how she's balled up. You can't really see it, but if you're smart and you could articulate through the blur, she is balled up against this wall, not sitting up straight, not without the hoodie on. She's trying to get through this the best she can. And if you can't see that, I can't make you see that. I can't. I cannot make you see that whatsoever. So the girl, Bethany, is giving her best recollection with all the trauma that she's been exposed to. It doesn't matter if she was in the doorway, it doesn't matter if she was a block away. This person is not a part of this crime. And if you can't see that, I can't convince you of that. I won't. I won't get into a debate over I'm right, you're wrong, because there's no convincing you. There's some of you that have been holding on to that for 3 years almost. And that's your prerogative. But the truth of the matter is, this crime took place. 4 people died. 2 people lived. The 2 people that lived obviously felt like shit because they lived and their friend died viciously. And you can't see that. And you're looking through all the little fine lines of how you can dissect this case and make it not make sense to you. That's you. That's you. Obviously, you've never dealt through anything like this. Otherwise, you would have some compassion toward these victims. And most of the people that are talking shit are up in age. They probably have daughters, sons, nieces, nephews, grandchildren, but they still get on this internet and talk shit about all this stuff because you don't know these people. You don't have any emotional attachment to it. So it's easier to talk shit. It's easier to talk shit on Bethany because why would she want to go to Nevada and never come home? Think about this. Why would a person in her position want to leave the state and never come back? Tell me that. You in the chat, tell me. Why would she want to leave the state as quick as possible and not come back? Tell me. There is a delay, but I'm going to go ahead and answer this a little bit because the killer is still out there at this point. They didn't catch him on this day. Nobody knew who the damn killer was. So they lived in a house where 4 people were murdered viciously. How do they not know that the killer's coming back for them? Dylan or Bethany? In their mindset, how is this killer not coming back to finish the job he started? They don't know who he is, what he's about, none of this. So she's answering these questions. You think she's covering up for Dylan? She distanced herself from Dylan immediately. No, she didn't. She was thinking about herself. She was thinking about her murdered friends. How is this person not coming back to kill me? I can't make you see it if you can't, or that you're willing to want to. Because most of you don't want to see that. You want to see she's a piece of shit. She's lying for Dylan. She's lying for herself. This interview guy, he's a piece of shit too because he's a cop. He doesn't know how to interview. He's asking all the wrong questions. He's leading the witness. He's doing this and that and the other. You know what I mean? This dude's a piece of shit. He doesn't know how to interview anybody. He's leading her with the answers. So therefore he's a part of it too. This is just a shakedown. This is just for protocol. Because they knew that this was going to be released, so that's why they redacted everything they redacted. What kind of world must a person live where all of that crosses your mind instead of, you know what, this poor girl is grieving at this point, crying, trying to get the answers out. You think she's worried about how to spell the dead people's names because the more that you ask her about these dead people, the more that it triggers her mind to say they're dead? You get what I'm saying? So what was their names? Okay, Xana. Zxany. I mean A. Because she just thought of Xana. So therefore Xana's dead. And that's another jab in the heart. But you can't get certain people to see that. I'm not willing to try. Because you know what? You can't fix stupid sometimes. You can't. Either they're playing stupid or they're doing it for whatever reason they want to do it. That's none of my business. Not because I'm scared of these people, it's because I could care less. Intelligent people know the truth. At this point, we know that this dipshit Brian Koberger did it, and he's in prison right now. And he's not coming home. Ever. Ever. Let me say it once again for those in the back. He's not coming home ever. Say it with me, chat. Type it in there. When is Brian coming home? Never. Is he ever coming home? Ever. Is Brian guilty? He admitted. Never to find home. Well, he's never coming to Pennsylvania ever again, to his room where he was arrested, obviously. He's not coming back to the Steptoe Apartments. Ever. And I know that many people don't want to hear that because that's the end of Idaho for you. That's the real case right there. In the real world, it's over. Closed. Never, ever coming home. Never, ever, forever, never, ever coming home. Forever, ever.
You, Ethan, Santa, was there another person with you? Or just the three people walked
Maddie
over?
walked over with us.
Okay, and that's
Logan.
Logan?
Mhm.
Is it M-A-D-D-I-E?
Her real name is Madison, though, I believe.
Okay. So you guys all walked over to, you were there about 8:30. Okay. Were you guys all pretty much together or just kind of mingling throughout the house most of the night?
We were all pretty much together, and then Maddie left to go to the club with Kaylee. And then I was with Ethan and Santa most of the night, but then one of my friends came. Her name is Steve, and I hung out with her the rest of the night.
Okay. And who was that?
Her name's Yes.
Can you spell it for me? Okay. And his last name?
I don't know how to pronounce it.
That would have been a cooler serial killer name, Red Bundy. Ted Bundy just sounds like, Red Bundy, that's the ticket. Hey, Jeff, I'm using your enhanced video. Thank you so much for doing that. I hope people go and check out Jeff H's channel. He does some good work on these videos. This is a lot clearer. It's not as humming like the other one. And I give Plunder the video or the props for even putting it out there. This is her stuff, not mine. Thank you, Plunder, for doing that. You know? We're just merely watching what you brought to surface.
And her full name is bigger than that.
Okay.
Forever, ever? Forever, ever.
So you have a phone number for her?
Yeah.
That's on your phone. Okay, you can get that. Okay, so you were with,
Mhm.
and at that point, Ethan and Santa were just kind of hanging out still at the house?
Mhm.
Okay.
And then I went to our other friend's house.
Okay. What time was that at?
I don't know, maybe like 12-ish. But that could be wrong.
That's fine.
Okay.
And where's that house at?
You know, I do get where people have that misinterpretation of the times, because if you were to ask me the time, like 12, when was the time that you did this or did that? You know what? At my point of reference, at this point in my life, I have to really think about it. I really have to think about it. And I couldn't even tell you the exact time. So the fact that they could tell as close to the time that they were being asked, that's pretty remarkable, I believe. You know? Forever, ever? Forever, ever. Dana Tab, thank you.
It's just like up the street. I don't know that address.
Okay, up the street from.
Sigmakai,
Okay.
kind of.
So you guys are at Sigmakai, so you're walking back towards.
We're walking back towards my house, and then we go this way.
So like when you got to Taylor Street, you went up. So if you walked all the way from Sigma News.
Or
Sigmakai, sorry.
yeah. You know the apartments, the whites.
Yep, I know the lights.
Because I want everybody to remember there was a point where we were all asking, what happened? What happened? Where was Dylan? Now we know where Dylan was. How long was Bethany with Xana and Ethan? Now we know. But instead of being grateful for that information, those little piece of the puzzle, that's not good enough for people for whatever reason. Or they don't want to believe it because that's not in line with their thinking or their bias. Because people do have bias. We all have biases in our lives. But we were all asking this. Remember at one point Jeff H was saying, man, I'd just love to know what that 1112 light bulb cam captured. And guess what? Now we know. But it's still not enough. We all wanted to know what that 417 whimpering and thud sounded like. And the dog barking. Now we know. But that's still not enough. We wanted to know what the back door looked like after he exited. I'm sure somebody wanted to know that. And we saw that in pictures. We saw that in the body cam. We saw the footsteps in the snow. How did they get onto this guy? Or even get onto the feeling that it was a male? Could have been a female in men's shoes. That's true. But now we see this, and it's still not enough. So I tell you, somebody could have went through that house filming Brian killing these people, which is a freaking miracle in 2025 because most people are streaming their freaking crimes. But think about this. Somebody could have been filming him killing these people step by step and released it on the web just like Linda Lane. And you know what? That wouldn't have been Brian. Even if they showed his eyes, those bug out eyes of his, that wouldn't have been Brian. You know why? Because Dylan said a couple feet shorter or a couple feet taller. Kind of like tall like me. So that discounts Brian because she made a mistake. Do you get what I'm saying? So whatever your bias is, what I'm showing here, what I'm saying here, if it doesn't align with what you believe, it's never enough for you. Follow whoever you have been following for 3 years. I merely just speak it on how I believe that this would have happened. Not trying to convince anybody. But many people don't believe this side of it because it's not extraordinary. It's not dramatic enough. Well, this girl almost crying as she's speaking isn't dramatic enough for you? I don't know what is. The fact that you had Dylan outside of that body cam video crying and barefoot on the ground and, all this other stuff, speaking as she was speaking, that wasn't dramatic enough. I don't know what would be. Those photos that we have been prevalent to see with the blood that you saw, and maybe in one of them you actually saw a human under the comforter. That wasn't dramatic enough or real for you enough. I don't know what will be. Because you focus on the simple fact that it wasn't Brian and he's innocent. You shouldn't be in prison. You've never focused on where the real killer is or how you got to him. So if there's still somebody out there that really did this and it wasn't Brian, how come it hasn't happened again? Because as we know in true crime, if somebody has tasted blood once, and in this case they tasted 4 people's blood, that person would be killing again by this point. We're almost 3 years into it. You're telling me that this person would have done his first sloppy ass crime and never killed again? Not even a copycat. There hasn't been any copycats. which is amazing to this point because I would have believed that somebody would have copied this by now. Nothing. Nothing. So what's that tell you? It tells me that they got the right guy. There's too many circumstantial evidence that lead up to this being the right guy. That's me taking out the DoorDash driver, that's me taking out even taking out Dylan's statement, just the body cam footage, just the 11-12 footage, the hearing the thud, hearing the barking, hearing, what you hear. Yeah, the right profile too. And let's not forget the professor at WSU saying he was with this person, the 9 people that complained about him, the numerous complaints, all that stuff doesn't necessarily make him a killer, but it does point bright lights on Brian Koberger. And let's not forget, he went and asked for a plea deal. His team went and asked for a plea deal. After everything was exhausted, after everything that was denied. Well, yeah, the judge was in on it. Really? One more person in the mix. So we got to make sure we get the judge involved, because if we don't get the judge involved, then we're screwed. But don't forget, the defense didn't want judge. They wanted to move it from Latah because they weren't going to get a fair trial. So you get to Boise, and everything you throw to try to get out is denied because you weren't doing your job right. You tell me. As I stated very early on, had there been a trial, you would have been pissed off even more because the crime happened in the residence. It happened from this amount of time to this amount of time, which wasn't a lot. So how could you even expect there to be a lot of evidence linking to this person if it was a short span of time? If a person comes up to you and kills you in a minute and 30 seconds, are you expecting there to be 10 minutes worth of evidence? If you're really going to be real about it, that's what we're dealing with here. We're lucky to be given as much as we gotten. To be fair, let's listen to some more or I always want to call her Bethany.
It's like that street that way.
So on Taylor?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you know roughly where on Taylor? Or does she live maybe on one of the other off streets?
It's on Taylor, but it's like one of the end houses by the intersection. I don't know how to explain it.
All right. Okay. And whose house is it that you went to?
It's, and I don't know their other roommate.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're at this house. How long were you here?
Maybe like 40 minutes.
Okay.
And then I left by myself.
Hey, Jeff, I'm going to ask you, since you're in the chat, you're not going to strike me if I play this all the way through without commentating, right? Because I'm going to play it all the way through, and then we're going to talk. Do you think Bethany knows 4 are dead at this point? I don't know. That's a good question.
I went back to my house.
So you walked home maybe around 1-ish?
Yeah.
Okay. What did you see when you got home?
Okay. We're sitting on the couch watching Vampire Diaries. No one else was home yet.
Okay. And is another roommate or who's last name?
She's in that room.
Oh, okay. And
I actually don't remember her last name right now.
that's fine. And does live with you guys too, or just with
Just a
your
friend.
Okay.
And then she left.
Do you know what time she left out?
No.
Okay. But you were all watching.
And I want you to know something. Last night in Discord, we were talking about the firecracker. We were talking about the bright light that she supposedly saw under her door. That is a question. That's a question people should be asking. What was that? And did you really hear that? You know? That's a huge question. And she also says that Kaylee planned on not moving to Texas. She wanted to stay with them. Those are two intriguing things out of this video that should be, those are questions that could be those types of questions that you would want answers for. Because to me, I actually enjoy stopping the video every 4.3 seconds. Okay. But to me, I would like to know what made Kaylee not want to move to Texas if indeed that was true. She speaks on grabbing some chips and going down to her room. Well, if you remember in the video and even in the photo, there's a potato chip bag on the couch. So if what he's asking her for no other reason, he probably already knows what's at the crime scene. So he's checking off in his head, okay, she's not lying. These things are actually there. I've seen them with my own eyes. I've seen them on the body cam. I I do not know. She said in this video, she says about 4:17. And then she heard the dog start barking. So, you know what I mean? So that's a interesting thing to me. That is intriguing to me. Because what could that be? That's something that it's hard to understand. What could have been the firecracker sound she heard and the light she heard under her door? But does that really mean anything in reference to the murder? Because at 4:17, supposedly by 4:20, he was rounding the corner. 4:20, 4:23. So was he still in the residence after the thud, after the dog barking? What could that have been?
Vampire Diaries.
Okay. And anything happened during that time period?
Just hanging out.
Okay. Do you know who else was in the house at that time?
No one.
No one? Just the three of you? Okay. So let's go a little bit more then. What happened there?
Maddie and Kaylee came home from the club, left.
Maddie and who?
Kaylee.
Kaylee. Okay. And they got home from the club. Do you know what time that might have been?
I think they told one of the cops that was talking to me at the house, better times.
Okay.
I don't really remember right now. Maybe 2 something, 1.
So if you got home around 1, that would have put them getting
1:45, 2, something like that.
So near bar break? If you had to guess.
What?
Like near bar break?
What was that mean?
Bars normally close at 2 o'clock here.
Oh, yeah. They went to grab truck after, so I
Okay.
don't know.
Okay. What did you do after that, after Maddie and Kaylee got home?
We all hung out in Kaylee's room for a little. And then talked, and then Maddie and I took Murphy out to pee the dog. And then I said I was gonna go to bed because I was tired. And she said she was gonna go to bed too. And then I went to my room. I was going to sleep, and she.
See, and she also said that Maddie was out walking Murphy. She went to a room. She grabbed some chips. She's gonna say, "No, hold on a second. I grabbed some chips." She thought that through. I grabbed some chips and then I headed toward my room. Well, Maddie wasn't in yet. Maddie comes in and knocks on her door and says, "Hey, you got Murphy?" And then she walks off. So obviously Murphy came back to Maddie, or Maddie walked upstairs with Murphy. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. Maybe it wasn't even, I don't know. I don't know what to think about that. But once again, this is all before the murder, so it really is irrelevant to anything that happened between 4 and 4:23. Could this have put some kind of awareness? But Brian hadn't even left his house yet. According to her, this all ended about 3 o'clock. So Brian left his house at 3:47, according to the paperwork. So she had all this stuff happened way before Brian even left his house. So, you know, this is just gathering evidence, intel, nothing more.
I knocked and asked if I had Murphy, and I said no. And then I went to bed.
Okay. So what time did you think you took Murphy out?
Like 2:30.
2:30 to 3?
Yeah.
Okay. And working on the.
So, y'all tell me, what time was Kaylee supposedly calling Jack D? Do y'all remember that time frame? Because if they were taking Murphy out at 2:30, it would make sense that Kaylee didn't take him out. It was Maddie taking him out. Kaylee called him so many times, and then they called from Maddie's phone twice. So could that have been the second time that or could it have been the time that Maddie brought Murphy in, and then they used her phone to call? 2:45 to 3. I thought it was earlier than that. I thought it was like 2:30 to 2:56 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, if you're looking at what we know about this, Kaylee was calling Jack D during this specific time. Maddie was out walking the dog with Bethany. Bethany walks in. Maddie's still out there with Murphy. She comes in. She knocks on Bethany's door. "Hey, do you have Murphy?" Walks off. So Murphy is obviously back in the house at that point. See, if you're looking at things to look over, you remember the factual events as they were spoken. Isn't that what they said? She supposedly called Jack D this amount of times. And then she called from Maddie's phone. So was she calling Jack D during the time when Maddie was out walking the dog with Bethany?
Get Murphy to go to the bathroom.
Just come back door in the kitchen.
So which one is 1122? So if I'm coming up King Road off of Taylor.
It's the big white house up there.
All the way to the very top on the right?
Well, it's technically on Queen, but the address is King.
Okay. So is it the one that's tucked back as you?
Well, Texas, he supposedly wasn't even gone from his residence till, what, 3:47. So this was way before that. I mean, it could have been. I mean, he could have done it earlier, but I don't see him coming to Moscow and then going back home and then coming back. You get what I'm saying? Because this is supposedly before.
Going up to 500 Clean Road, those big apartments. It's kind of
Yeah.
back just a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay, so you normally go out the back deck then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I know that gesture then. Okay, so you go there.
I thought he left at 3:47, or was it 2:47? Maybe 2:47. You're right. It was 47 because the 7 minutes would have made it 2:54. It was probably 247. You're right. I was wrong once again. Hey, I don't mind being wrong. Like I said, I'm not thinking about this case 24/7. I got other shit out here in the real world. I'm trying not to be misleading or misguiding. I make mistakes. So if that's not good enough for you, if I have to be perfect, I'm sorry. I'm not perfect. And a lot of people aren't either.
You and Maddie take the dog out.
Mhm.
And then how long do you think that took?
I was out there for maybe like 10 seconds.
Okay. Okay. So then you both come back in. So you and Maddie both
I
come
came
back
in
in.
before she did.
Okay. Did Maddie still have the dog then?
Yes, I think
Okay.
so.
So you went out for a little bit, came back in. Do you know what time Maddie came back in?
Mm-mm.
And you went straight to bed when you came back in?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, at 3:30, as Jeff said, it's the first time the Elantra's seen on the 1330 Linda Lane camera. So it would have been 247. You're right. You're right. I don't know why I thought 347, but you're right. I misspoke there. I was wrong. Okay, so 247. So they walked the dog out. She went back in at 2:30. So Brian left at 2:47. So he wasn't even in the area yet. So they're already inside. But it's not spoken that I've heard of what time Dana and Ethan came in.
How long after you went to bed do you think Maddie came?
Actually, I came in, grabbed some chips, into my room, and watched the show for a little, and then I went to bed.
What were you watching?
It's called Baby Daddy.
Okay. How long do you think you watched it?
Maybe like 30 minutes.
So one episode maybe?
Yeah,
Okay.
or like a half.
Okay. And did Maddie come in during that show or after?
She just knocked on my door, I think, during and asked if I had Murphy, and I said no.
Okay. Then what happened after that?
Okay, so she knocked on the door during the last of the show. That would have been the last 15 minutes of the show lasted 30 minutes. So if she went into her room at 2:30, that would have put 3 o'clock. So that makes sense. If Maddie was with Kaylee when they were calling Jack D, she went downstairs at 3:30 ish, knocked on the door. So Brian's already in the area. Thank you for that, Doug.
I just went to bed, and then I woke up and I was like half asleep, and I just thought I saw like a firework or something, like it just sparkled like under my door, and I thought I heard like something kind of fall, and then Murphy barked, and I thought people were just making like food, like, and Ethan was here or something and knocked something over because he's usually loud in the kitchen upstairs.
Okay. So what do you mean by you heard a firework?
It sounded like a little firework, and then there was like a spark. I went by my, like, I'm on the bottom floor.
Okay.
Okay. I know there's been multitudes of thoughts on what that spark could have been. She said, let me rewind this a little bit. She said, it sounded like a firework. Kind of a fall when I Murphy back, but I thought people were just making like knock something over because he's usually loud in the kitchen. So she thought it was Ethan. So what do you mean by you heard a firework? A firework, and then there was like a spark when by her door.
Like, I'm on the bottom floor,
Okay.
so it kind of looked like it came down there, but I don't know.
See, so she's not very clear at this point. She's not very clear at this point of what that spark or what that light that came under her door would have been. You know what I mean? So I don't know exactly what that could have been. I mean, I don't have a clue I mean, I think that's interesting to talk about. I really do. Because if she's hearing this and seeing this, what the hell could that have been? See, I spoke on this last night. We're talking about it in Discord. We're talking a little bit about this in Discord because we watched this. And I thought it could have been the spark could have been a lamp being knocked over and the light bulb breaking. You know how a light bulb when it hit the ground it makes that kind of like glass breaking. But I don't know how it would have been the spark. I have no clue what that would have been. I mean, I'm open to what you are saying. I'm liking the discussion. Thank y'all for yeah, light bulb. That's what I thought it was. Like the light bulb falling over with the thud and then going psh, but I don't know how that light would have got down to her room though. How would she have seen that under her door? I don't get that. I don't know. That's what's throwing me off. They said even a light flickering with the thud or a nightstand getting hit. Yeah. But how would that light have went under her door? That's the big question. I'm gonna play some more of this.
And so is Murphy your dog?
Kaylee's dog.
Kaylee's dog?
Kaylee and her ex-boyfriend's dog.
Okay. So you heard Murphy bark right after you heard what you thought was a firecracker?
Yeah, something like that. But he like, I don't know, dogs bark at random things. And sometimes when he's happy, he'll bark.
Okay. It didn't sound like an angry growl or anything like that, just a bark?
I don't really know. I was like half asleep.
Okay.
I just had it like bark.
So, hear the firework, kind of see a spark underneath the door. Murphy barks. What'd you hear after that?
Pretty much nothing.
Nothing.
That's it.
Okay. And you thought maybe someone was just in the kitchen at that point?
Yeah, just like someone accidentally fell into the table or something.
Thank you, Open Minds. Maybe we'll do that sometime next week if you're cool with that. I mean, at this point, this is Jeff's. We might do that next week. I mean, just to give us a little time to think on what I've asked today, because I'm stuck on that firework sound and also the flash of light under her door. I mean, that's a lot to take in right there. And like what she's saying right now, yeah, just like someone accidentally fell into the table, or let's see what the rest of it says.
Something.
Okay.
And she was like with Murphy.
Do you know about what time that might have been? Do you have any
Like
idea?
4 or something. I tried to call all of them at like 4:20ish around that time, and no one was answering. I thought they just went to bed.
See, so she had a timestamp because obviously she's looked at her phone at this point, right? She does seem very young, very immature. Not immature, but maturity wise, she seemed very young. And I appreciate that open mind perspective. Thank you for that invitation to do that.
Okay. What happened after that?
And called me, and she said she thinks she saw someone. And I didn't know like really what to think of it, because sometimes we think we hear things a lot in the house, but it's usually just Ethan walking around. But she came, I told her to come in my room, and she could sleep with me, and we could lock the door, just stay in there just in case if there was anything, and that's all I knew. And I fell back asleep.
You didn't hear anything else?
That's a good catch too, Isabel. There's no mention of the DoorDash. There's no mention. That's a good catch. I'll put that up there. She did mention the DoorDash. You're right. That's a good catch.
No one else talking? Okay. Did you make it to your room then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What time do you think she got in your room?
Around like 4:20, 4:30.
Okay, about the same time.
Yeah.
Where's her room located to yours?
I'm the only one on the bottom floor, right by the front door.
Okay.
And then you go up the stairs, and Xana's room, and Xana's room, the kitchen, and then upstairs is Maddie and Kaylee's room.
Okay. And where's Mojo?
Right by the kitchen.
Right by the kitchen. Okay. And did she say anything to you when she got into the room?
She said she thought she saw a man, but I didn't know what to think of it. I was like, still half asleep, and I was like, I didn't know what to think. I don't know.
Okay.
It didn't sound like I didn't hear screams, I didn't hear anything. I didn't really know.
Okay. Okay. And notice that she didn't say anything more than she just saw someone.
Yeah, that's all I remember her saying.
I mean, it's sad to me, and I'm not trying to keep pausing this. I'm just used to it. It's sad to me that she's trying to recall the answers to this person's the interviewer's questions, and it can you imagine not long after all this chaos is going and you just woke up from sleep, you're half out of it because I'm sure she was hungover. Or hell, she could have been still drunk for all we know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, her mind might not be clear is, but she did a great job, I believe, at answering the questions. I mean, she didn't muddy up anything. She did say, I don't know, whenever she didn't know. She didn't interject her own thoughts or her own beliefs. You know what I mean? She wasn't leading this policeman into a wild goose chase. And I believe that's why he continued to go on with the questioning because she did say she didn't know. And I mean, what are you going to grill somebody who isn't a suspect into stating something that they don't know and just making something up?
Okay. So your bed then, if I'm looking at the right house, you have a parking lot, front door, and your bedroom's just to the right? Okay. And that's where you slept from by the time you finally got into your room around 4-ish or so. Actually, before that.
Mm-hmm. So like 3 something.
Yeah. So you were in there sleeping. Okay. Dylan got to your room maybe somewhere around 4:20-ish, but Dylan was already home at that point. You knew that Maddie and Kaylee were home. Do you know when anyone else in the house got home?
I don't know when Xana or Ethan got home. I didn't hear them come in or anything.
Okay. Okay. And the last time you saw Xana and Ethan was at the Sigma guys?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, did you see anything weird at the party there at this?
Just a little.
Okay. And see how the way that they're set up, where everyone hanging out primarily up in the main common room area, where most people hanging out in individual rooms and stuff like that.
It's a little bit of a mixture. At first, it was in the apartments, and then it was the main room.
Okay. Yeah.
And then as I was leaving, I wanted to grab a backpack from our friend's room, and Xana and Ethan were sitting on the couch just listening to music.
Okay. And that was up in the main room?
I'm so sorry to hear that, Isabel. Jesus, that must have been scary as hell at 19. You know what I mean? That's terrible. That's terrible. Bethany right here, where she's talking about where they were and what she actually saw Xana and Ethan. She said they were listening to music here in a minute. She said they were on a couch listening to music when she left because she left with one of her friends. So I don't know about you, but I was always under the impression in the PCA, and that's why it's so discouraging sometimes because when it's written on paper, even though it is a legal document, there was so much left out. It was like you went from here to here to here. Well, we had been told that Bethany went back to 1122 the same time with Ethan and Xana. We were told that she got there, they all were in the residence by 1:45 if I remember correctly. So that that meant that they would have been there first and then Kaylee and Maddie would have been there. So it's all thrown off. I get exactly why people are so confused about these documents. Does it mean there was a cover up? I don't believe so, but I believe that there are a lot of missing pieces that we're getting now that actually clarify it. You know what I mean? Because as they said in court, this PCA was a working document. So at the very beginning, they might have gotten that information, and as later things came out, as they put things together, it became a lot more clear. I could see where it looks nefarious, but that's how investigations work. And you might not buy that, and I can accept that.
Or that was in
That was in an apartment.
that was in an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you hear of anything that happened to anybody?
Mm-mm.
Was there anyone strange or odd hanging around the party?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Do you know of anybody in your house that has an issue with anyone? Any ex-boyfriends, anything like that?
All their ex-boyfriends are really nice and they're still my good friends.
Okay. Have you ever had any of your roommates complain about anyone stalking them?
Mm-mm. Once though,
Listen to this part right here. This is the part that really got my ears perked up. What she says here. If you didn't hear this the first time that you heard this, I heard this last night whenever we were listening to it. Listen to what she says and think about the things that we've heard about the perpetrator. Think about the perpetrator and what he used to do in the coffee shop with the barista that came out. What you've heard about other incidences, not trying to create something that's not there. These are statements from other people. So listen to what she says here.
Kaylee said when everyone was like gone, me and were at the sorority house for a meeting. And it was only Kaylee and she was taking Murphy out to pee. This was a while ago. And she said she swears she saw someone staring at her while she was taking the dog out to pee from the
How long
backyard.
ago that was?
Maybe like a month. You can see like a man's silhouette like staring at her.
A man silhouette like sturdy. So think of some of the stuff, and I'm not bringing conspiracy in here, but think of some of the stuff that we heard at the very beginning. We did hear this that Kaylee thought that she saw a man staring at her with a hooded over him, and she got scared and brought Murphy back in the house. We did hear this, but I was under the impression, I don't know about y'all, I was under the impression that this was the same night. So I was incorporating all this stuff together. Like this happened the same night. But as she's saying it, this happened a month prior. See, I thought this happened the same night when I thought her and Maddie took Murphy out in the backyard, saw this man, and that scared him enough to go back into the house. So it's a lot of different stories jumbled up all together. See, I thought, I'm going to speak for myself. I can't speak for y'all. I thought that this happened the same night, but it was a month. So let's listen to that again because this is concerning.
You can see like a man's silhouette like staring at her. A month. You can see like a man's silhouette like staring at her.
You think it was about a month ago?
Mm-hmm.
Did Kaylee have any issues with anyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you know, in that environment, it could have been anybody. Does it mean it was Brian? No, it doesn't. But at the same time, she said she uses the word man. She didn't say a boy. She didn't say a college kid. She didn't say any of that. She said the word man, a sturdy man.
None of them have made any comments or statements of anyone trying to come onto them or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that all of the ex-boyfriends and that, they're all normally, they're very nice and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of them fairly recent breakups?
One, but
Like I said, every little bit helps. Can you give me a little information on that one?
his name, he lives
Like, okay. Where's
down the street,
on Taylor?
on King, I think.
Okay.
And he and Kaylee share Murphy,
Okay.
and they dated for 7 years.
And that's in Kaylee?
Mm-hmm. Or something like that.
And they dated for 7 years?
Something like that. Since high school. Their families are really close too.
Okay. And they shared Murphy?
Mm-hmm. I think.
Okay. How long did they break up?
Maybe like 3 months or something. But they're still on really good terms.
Do you know why they broke up?
She was gonna move to Texas.
Where's Kaylee from?
Portland.
Okay. Where is from?
Portland.
Okay. Okay. You said that they're still on good terms, they still talk to
Very
each
good
other?
terms. Yeah.
Okay. Has Kaylee been seeing anyone else lately?
Not really that I know of.
Okay.
See, there was people saying that Kaylee was dating around, that Kaylee was with other people. That's why this probably happened or whatever. She just said she didn't really know. So who am I to argue with a person who lived with Kaylee? She would have known if Kaylee was doing extra stuff. Why would she have lied about it? You know what I mean? She didn't. So let's continue on.
Do you know when she was going to move to Texas?
After this year. But then apparently she wasn't going to anymore. I don't know.
Do you know what changed your mind?
I think she wanted to stay here with all of us.
Yeah, the officer asked her, "Where's your room located?" She says, "Mine is on the bottom floor. You turn to the left under the stairs."
Is there anything else you think is important for me to know? And you might remember things later. That's very normal, okay? If you think you remember anything else, please reach back out to us. And we'll bring you back in and we'll get that information, okay? We'll go back to my notes real quick before I let you go, okay? You don't remember Kaylee's last name?
I think it's all this.
Gonzalez?
Yeah, it's all this.
Okay, can you spell it for me?
I don't know how to spell it.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I very much thank you for sitting down with me, okay? I'm going to take you out to the other room so you can be with your friends, all right? You sure there's nothing else?
Okay, so that's it. A pretty heartbreaking interview.
Thank you for that, Plunder, and thank you for that, Jeff H, for cleaning that up. You know, it's always interesting to really look at something the second time, the third time, because that's my second time to view that. And I heard things and I saw some things in this one that I didn't see the first time. That's why it's always good to look at something and listen to what's being stated, because I believe the first time that we see something, we're so in shock that we're actually being able to see this that we miss so much of the little stuff that's being presented, you know? Um, and it's awesome that we have some new people in the chat. Um, I'm happy that you are here. Thank you so much for being here and feeling comfortable to comment. Like I've told people, you know, this is not a bad chat. It's a very friendly chat. Obviously, you know, we haven't went after anybody. So thank you guys for being here and feeling free to comment. You're welcome to come in here at any time. And, you know, we agree to disagree because, like I've stated, none of us, other than the two people that survived, know exactly what went on that night. And they still don't know. They only know what they heard, what they saw, what they perceived. You know, that's it. You know? And we don't block anybody in here. If anybody gets blocked, it's me doing the blocking. So if you've ever been blocked, don't blame my mods. I blocked you. Okay? And there are some people that are blocked from this channel because for reasons that I have with those people, I believe that they are not welcome in here, you know? So if anybody's blocked, I blocked you. So don't blame any of my mods. They might time you out, but that's based on stuff that we've discussed, based on behavior, either toward my panel guest or to myself or to somebody in the chat, you know? But we are a very friendly chat, you know. I've tried to, you know, encourage people to come into the chat and share your discussion with us. Are we going to get along? Of course we are. Are our perceptions of this crime going to be identical? No, but that doesn't mean that you're on one side and I'm on the other. It just means that we have different views of different things and we learn from each other. That's the wonderful part of this all is I learn from people and hopefully y'all learn from the people in the chat, you know, because not everybody is right on point with everything. You know what I mean? Isabel says 12 gauge, I was brought to your stream by coincidence just tonight. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you came. I mean, this is the first time that I'd seen you, and I'm glad that you felt comfortable to come in. The same thing with Julie and some of the other ones, Nicole from earlier, you know, open mind perspective. She's been in here a couple times. You know, I do a convict thought. AR comes in here from time to time, you know. I'm done with the warring of words, you know, because this individual, as we all know, is locked up. How he got there, He pled out. That's how he got there, Whether we believe he should have pled out, that's between you and your belief, you know. I think we all do agree, though, this was a very vicious and heinous crime. And it would be nice to have all the pieces. God, I'm trying to find the perfect one. I don't like the big one. Shit, which one? I have all kinds of ones. Okay, there we go. I can hang with that one. But he did plea out. He did plea out. So, you know, if you're not a member of my Discord, just look for 12 Gauge Investigative. I do have two of them. The one that was created this year is the most current one. So you're more than welcome to send a friend request. All I ask is that you don't screenshot anything and that you don't use my channel or my Discord for intel or blackmailing reasons. Okay, that's all I ask. Tonight, I think we're going to try to show the Idaho um, thing that was on 2020 last night. I think we're going to try to get that streamed. Last night, it wouldn't let us stream it. We do watch movies in there from time to time on the weekends. We do watch crime documentaries that weren't able to show on YouTube. We do stream them in there and we do discuss them. It is a very good community. If you are interested in possibly becoming, intertwined with our community, we do welcome people. I mean, I don't have any enemies other than those that view me as an enemy. You know, I don't like being torn down from people who didn't help me build myself up, which is that the only person is me. So um, if you do want to be a part of the Discord and you want to come in to watch that tonight, if that's all you want to watch is that, you're more than welcome. We do welcome that. Okay? I do run the Discord like I run my channel. Not a lot of drama, just a lot of interaction between adults who like to talk openly and honestly. And like I said, it's not for blackmail, it's not for screenshots, none of that BS. I don't do all that. So hopefully I see y'all soon. And possibly open mind perspectives. If you're open to coming up on panel, maybe Tuesday night we can do that. And we can show your video and you can be on panel to discuss it with me. I mean, obviously it's your video. I'd prefer you to discuss it than me, you know what I mean? So maybe tonight around 8:15ish, somewhere around there. Hop into Discord in the fire pit and we will see you. Hopefully if we can get that 2020 thing streaming, we will show it. If not, we'll show something else. Um we've been watching you, but we'll watch something if you're interested. Like I always say, stay safe out there and watch your six. As Walt said, Maestro, cue that music, and thank you so much for the people that hopped into the chat. I hope that you left with a good feeling in your heart, not only about yourself, but about the channel. Hope to see you all soon. See you later.